to the Business of Soul Searching. My name is Erin, and I invite you to join me as I travel the world challenging risk takers who have soul searched and came out on the other side to tell us their incredible stories. Are you ready for this? Hello everyone, this is Erin from the Business of Soul Searching, and this is our last episode for season 2. I can't believe it. I originally planned to talk about the DACA issue that's kind of been really hot in the media and obviously affecting a lot of people, immigrants especially coming to the United States, as well as their families, and people that are just really empathetic towards immigrants. And what I originally wanted to do was to bring my husband. For those of you who aren't familiar or don't really follow me on social media, but just keep up with my podcast, my husband is from the Caribbean. So in regards to anything regarding immigrants, it's just very kind of sensitive to us, even if it doesn't necessarily apply directly to his status, so to speak. It's like, you know, we empathize with other people, other people that may get deported and things like that. So, so as opposed to, you know, kind of just talking about it myself, I would rather schedule some time with my husband and just have an open conversation in the future, just about what it's like for someone that's an immigrant to come here and live here and to, you know, transition from an Obama administration to Trump administration. I think that'd be, you know, an awesome topic. So hopefully we can squeeze that in for season 3. So like I said, I was going to do that. And then I realized what I haven't done so far is really just review, you know, my past 21 or now 22 episodes of work. And so I definitely wanted to answer a few questions so people know where I'm heading to in the future, and just my thoughts on kind of previous podcasts. And then the second part, I have some like random interesting questions, and I balled them up and threw them in a jar just so that I didn't even really kind of prepare. I wanted them to be kind of off the cuff. I wanted to really just, you know, think and process with my audience in real time. So, so that'll be coming up. But my questions regarding my podcast, I thought my favorite episodes to record from season 1 and, well, okay, so season 1, my favorite episodes to record. I would say definitely one of my favorites was my very first, of course. I always go back to that one because it was just so new. The Women's March, it was just really scary and I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like out in the field, you know, just kind of talking. And then, of course, I have T. Barnes Beauty and Worldwide Commerce. I loved sitting down with Tanisha, or really T. Barnes is how that's her brand and logo and business name. And we really, I don't even know how to say it, but just when I was sitting with her, there's actually a picture on my Instagram for people that don't follow me on Instagram yet. It's Business of Soul and spelt regularly. And there's a picture of us. I think it's still up. If not, I'll repost it in the meantime while we take this break from podcasting. And we just look so enmeshed in the conversation. Like we literally look like I didn't even realize that my husband was snapping pictures because we were just so engrossed. That's the word. Engrossed in the conversation and what each other was saying and just vibing. And I was actually, then my next question is most nervous event and episode. So that was actually I was actually very, very nervous for that episode because I felt like she is a business tycoon. Shout out Tanisha or T. Barnes. And what you're doing in your platform and your strength and your blackness and just how you're just so awesome. Like you're just so down to earth, and she advocates for people of color and just other people too. Like just now she did she raised money for Anguilla, for people who are going to be tuning into this after kind of recently, in like years to come and whatever. There was a hurricane that passed through over in Anguilla and really the Caribbean. But Anguilla is a really like love spot for Tanisha, so of course she raised money. And when I last looked, she raised over $12,000, in donating water and different things. So I just love her spirit. I love all of that. So I was just really nervous because I was still new to this, in the first season. So I was really, really nervous. And then just to go back to the first question real quick before I get to the episode that I'm most nervous about. I'm sorry, the event that I was most nervous about hosting. What other one? I think for season 2, this one's tough. I obviously liked, interviewing everyone, and I don't want anyone that's been on my podcast to be like, oh, I wasn't good enough. Like, you all put together, or have amazing brands, and I haven't deleted any of them actually off my podcast because I can't. I think that everyone has such quality brands and minds, and they've soul searched, and I just love their story. But I would say, I think something that aligns with my spirit, why I started this podcast, and I just really, really gravitate and love this person, was Jessica Mardi. And so the episode, if you wanted to flick back, is Empire versus 13 Reasons Why. And we talk about, the mental health field, and we talk about the media and how they're misportraying mental health, and how that's not just negatively impacting, the community, but also especially the Black community. And she tells her personal story with depression and suicide, and it was just really awesome to be there in real time and listening to her and listening to her story, and just connecting with her, and we're gonna collaborate in the future, and I just really, really appreciate her. So that was so much fun. So I love doing that. So back to question 2. So the event that I was most nervous to do. So of course, my very, very first event when I was super new at interviewing in general, was Fashion Week. So their second season, that was like, I was like, I was excited, but I was also just petrified because I had signed up for in January to do a podcast, so I'm recording right now, and like, it's going to be edited, and if however it comes out, the person that edits my podcast is gonna, kind of chop it and make it look good, and I can chop out whatever I want. So my thing is, what was really nerve-wracking was the thought of live live streaming. And so on top of the fact that I'm doing red carpet and I'm like doing interviews, there's other people watching. Like, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be red carpet, and it's just going to be me and the person I'm interviewing. But it's like, whoever, red carpet is in front of everyone. So as scary as it was to do it, I'm glad that I did. I was also co-hosting with someone who had a lot of experience with live broadcasting, and she kind of sat me down afterwards, and she was just like, you can do this, and it's really scary at first, and I understand, but you can do this, and here are some tips. And she just explained to me kind of how to just better my craft. Because I do like the live action, and I like networking and connecting and going to social events. I know that podcasting can be isolating if you're not getting out there networking, and that's not what I want. I'm a very social person. So that, like I said, red carpet for the first time was really like nerve-wracking to me. But now I'm getting more into it, and I'm hoping to do more events in the future for the podcast. So we'll see where that goes. let me see. Oh, most difficult part of podcast production. It's taking me a little while to read through these because I literally just write so quickly. I write little notes to myself and then arrows to like ask that at this point. All right, so most difficult part of podcast production. For me, I think, I mean, there's different parts to it. Like, obviously, so what you're listening to now, I'm obviously recording it. Um, I guess the easiest part would be recording, I guess. Knowing what to say can be nerve wracking, but I mean, for the most part, you're just talking, and once you organize yourself, you're all set. But the production part, I struggled in the beginning. I know why I had asked this question to myself to make sure that I'm helping people, so that you don't make the mistakes that I made. So, production wise, so something that's imperative when you start a podcast is either learning to produce your own podcast, meaning editing, so that it's ready to go up on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher. What's the other one? TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever your platform is. And some people do it themselves and save the money, which is awesome. I wish I had the time to do that. Some people, like I do, pay a person to produce it, and then they send it back to them, and then that person puts it on their podcast platform, and they share it and whatever. So my thing is, when I started this process in January and February, I was paying someone I was paying $150 an episode. I'm not going to tell you what I'm paying now just because I love the person that I work with, and I don't know if he does, different prices and deals with different people. But I was paying way more than I should have been paying. And I say that not to throw the people under the bus, and that's why I'm not, adding their brand or talking about it. But um, finding a production team that you trust, you're comfortable with, you gel with, and the prices are in the range that they should be, and also are affordable for you. For some people, $150 an episode, they can do that. When I look at the quality from first season to this season, it's similar. And I feel like, I think that what I will say, because I always like to put a positive spin, I don't like to dwell on negative in the past and blah, blah, blah. But my thing is, in regards to production and editing, if you are going to outsource that and you're going to have people do it for you, make sure that you shop around and you see other people's work. I know when I was shopping around, people were like, "Oh, I work on this podcast and this podcast," and then you can go in and look and say, "Oh, like I don't like how they cut in for this, and I don't like how they do this music, and or I like this and I like that, and this is exactly how I want my show. The price is right. This is my person, so on and so forth." I think that's important. Also, another thing before I go on to the next one is for so there's the production piece, but there's also the timing. So that's something that I definitely want to work on is timing, making sure everything stays organized and so that it comes out on a weekly basis. And for people that are really interested in doing a podcast or a YouTube channel or some type of like vlogging, blogging, whatever, one of the most important things they say to do, and I've realized that this is important because I see my downloads going up, is being consistent. So if you're not recording on time, or people are canceling on you, or you're not getting your product to your editor on time, obviously that affects your, your how should I say, your presence and your download speed. So that's something that I think is difficult, is making sure that, technology wise, no matter what, that you get your product out there. Let's see. Um, and then my next one was for people starting a podcast. So all of those things that I just listed are important. I think another thing that I found to be true was be very selective with who you're putting on your podcast, because every episode, especially if you're paying for it, and whether this is a hobby or a business, but every episode that you're paying, every episode that you do and you have someone on is a chance to increase your downloads and to increase your presence. To connect to do, you might not want to market your podcast, but you might be like, hey, I want to be a YouTube personality, or hey, I want to be some type of like personality where people have me host their events or whatever it may be. And so the way to do that is to get your presence out there and to get your downloads up. So, and part of what helps with that is not even necessarily having like celebrity guests. Like, you don't have to have a celebrity your first season, and you may not, you might, you never know. I don't, it depends on what you've done before this, but it has to do with the person's following and how consistent their following is, as well as how much their audience aligns with your audience. And so to kind of cross traffic, so to speak. So sometimes you may be really interested in someone, and it's like, they may not have the biggest following, and you kind of have to make that decision. Like, how bomb is this person that this episode is just going to be kick ass, and I'm going to get a lot of downloads, or I'm just going to get a lot of listens, or establish a connection to my following through this guest? Or, is it that they do have a following, and I'm not so, I don't think I'm going to gel with them 100%, but so it's those decisions, I think, that you have to make. So just be mindful of that when you're selecting your list. And something that I've also learned is outlining a terms of, you share, or on this platform, and so on and so forth, because you put all this work and this money and this energy into producing a podcast to hopefully network with that person's following, and then if they don't share it, it's like, well, what was the point? So that's that. Let's see, and maybe I can do a whole episode on people starting a podcast. But there's also a lot of groups that support people that have podcasts. That are starting podcasts. She Podcast is this huge group for females that are starting podcasts. But there's other things for men as well. So what will be different for season 3? Season 3, I am. Why is it different? I actually just recently made the list. Um, Season 3 is different. So I wanted to. What was I gonna say? Uh, what will be different? So what's going to be different is, I think definitely my guests. I actually have some people this season. So I feel like this season I know the people more so. Like, now that I've been through, like, this has basically been almost a year of podcasting. And so season 3 is going to be people that I've networked with, I've engaged with on social media, and or are my close friends. I'm going to have people on there that I've been on their podcast. And so I get to see their flavor. I've listened to their podcast. I've, like I said, followed them on social media, gotten to know them. They've gotten to know me and know what I do and know what my podcast is about. So I'm thinking that the episodes are just going to be even just more connected and awesome, and because we're going to already have established rapport. So that's definitely what's going to be different for season 3. I think also I am challenging myself to do more networking and more events. I was slacking. Like, I was totally going through something during the summer. I felt like my higher power, when I looked at the end of it, my higher power was telling me to be still, to just observe a lot of different things about my podcast and about where I am in life and my marriage and, my friendships and all of that. So it's time for me to kick it up, a couple notches and to really commit to, like I canceled photo shoots, I canceled a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't feel like that was a waste. I felt like I like to go and I like to mentally, spiritually, emotionally be ready. Like if someone books me for an event or, to co-host or whatever, if I'm flying out or I'm staying here in Rhode Island or Mass and doing it, I want to do it to the best of my ability. So I just feel like, I want to do that. So so that is I think what else is going to be going on for season 3. And then I have a big announcement. As always, I always have announcements. I'm like, oh, surprise, like every week. um I Yeah, it's just gonna be different. Like I think I'm gonna be doing more music. I sing and I love singing, and I just want to incorporate that into my podcast. I feel like I'm not being my true self if I'm not including music, because it's such a huge facet of my life. So that's that. And then the last one is, how has Business of Soul Searching podcast changed you? So, how has it changed me so far? Hmm. I think this podcast really helped me understand what my purpose is in life and what I'm good at, what I'm not so good at, and could maybe improve on. And it challenged me. Like there's been days where I'm like, oh, I'm barely getting any downloads, and I just want to, like, it's like I just want to give up. And I know all entrepreneurs have that, or just people in general. Life gets hard, on top of the fact that you're trying to do something that most people, try to commit to but can't. It's really trying, and it's hard to continue to tell yourself you can do this, and this is for you, and this is what your higher power created you to do. So yeah, so that's kind of like how I felt like it's changed me. It's strengthened me. And it really proved to me that I could do this, because I felt like I could do it. And then I was like, I started it and I'm like, can I do this? Like, am I good enough to do this? Am I interesting enough to do this? Are people going to even like be listening to me? And sometimes I kind of have like a thought like that every once in a while, but from the support I get from people that I know, people that I didn't even realize were acknowledging my social media presence and my podcast, and just all of that people were really acknowledging my interviewing skills. It just is like it empowers me, and I'm like, I should keep going. And when people are telling me I've been listening to every episode, I'm just like, I have to keep going, because they keep listening and they need something to listen to and to relate to. Um, so that's how I think it's changed me. It's definitely strengthened me in regards to entrepreneurship and just as a person, and it's given me a voice. There's times where I get so upset about different issues, like my last post about Kenneka Jenkins, and there's a ton of other things when you go through my repertoire on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube and different things. But like, it's given me a platform to speak, and I'm just so blessed to have started this. So those are kind of my questions in regards to where my podcast is going. I'll be releasing my list of folks soon enough. I'll be sending out the emails so that I can kind of get things organized and give you guys some awesome things to look forward to for season 3. And yeah, so I'm gonna take a quick break and I'll be right back. All right, and I'm back. So I was talking about earlier how this is my last episode for season 2. And I recently, the first half was just about kind of like where I'm going with the podcast, with my podcast, I should say, and what I'm looking forward to, what kind of things I've come up against in the past 2 seasons, and just maybe some insights for people. So this last part, I'm gonna try and do it quickly. And so I'm just gonna pick questions out of a bowl and try and answer them to the best of my ability. It just some questions that I thought were interesting as I was looking online. I'm like, what do I really think of that? So here goes nothing. All right. So the first one, this is so funny. Do you have any advice for your previous boss? Oh Lord. Well, I guess to be honest, like I can be very vocal. Um, I told my boss exactly how I felt, months before I left. And the issue that I had had with her is I felt like, sh- so I had had an issue with the structure of things and how they had been going that way since I started there a year prior. So I'm just like, well, people have been complaining about this for this amount of time, and it's still going on. And you're a new supervisor, and I don't understand how it's still going on. And you know, the issue that I think what amplified things between her and I is she doesn't really like feedback. I think as a boss, or if you're really trying to be a leader, I should say, you are you should be open to feedback. I mean, in general, if you're not open to feedback, how can you grow? And so that was kind of my issue with her, is that when I came to her, it was almost like, why are you talking to me? Like, why are you not even complaining, but why are you laying out these issues? I felt in a professional manner. Um, and I guess my advice for her is just to be more open. And maybe she's learned it by now since I left. All right. What do you think about when you're alone in the car? I think about everything. When something really healing for me is listening to music in the car. I also get really paranoid at night. All right. What is the funniest thing that happened to you lately? I mean, I work at an inpatient psychiatric hospital, so I mean, there's been fires, there's been floods, there's been people peeing in the heater, there's been people spitting at people. Like, I mean, it's like a daily thing. All right, what's the last thing you watched on TV? Before we have to fix our cable and whatever, but before we had an issue, I watched. Oh, I forget what it is. I'm gonna have to get back with you guys. It was a show where people are buying homes on Netflix, and it's like, how much is that, or something to that effect. And it's and they were doing like beaches, like $1 million homes, and I just would like put it on for a little bit. I'd wake up in the morning listening to it. So listen to that. Sometimes I would just turn it off and put on like music Soul Child, and just would watch all the scenery and everything in all the different countries and places they looked at. So that's one of my shows. I love Law and Order. I don't know. I have a weird taste in stuff, and like Netflix and everything. What was the last gift you gave someone? I just went to a baby shower, so baby shower stuff, baby monitor, and baby on board sign. Describe the color yellow to someone that is blind. Oh, ooh, that's. I think I'm going to save that one for next time I do this, because I actually have to run to work. I'm going to save that one. The next one was, what were you like in high school? What's your, okay, I'm going to wrap this up on what's your favorite 90s jam, because I'm a huge 90s baby. My favorite, I actually just played this. I Want to Be Down remix by Brandy. So that's like, I mean, I have millions of 90s jams, but there's something about the combination between Brandy's unreal vocals and other, and also excuse me, the MCs that are in that record that just make it so like timeless. Like I literally cannot. I'm probably gonna play that on the way to work right now, actually. But yeah, so that's all the time that I have now for questions. That was actually really fun, and I think I want to do that again. Maybe on my season 3 opener, I will do a few questions like that, and we'll have some fun. So again, goodbye for now. I will be back in what I would guesstimate to be a couple weeks to a month. I have a photo shoot to do this weekend probably. I have some interviews just to make sure I'm all set. I want to book some events, and I will get back with you guys. All right, thanks for listening. See you soon. And that concludes another exciting episode of The Business of Soul Searching. If the content discussed in this podcast interests you, please contact me at thebusinessofsoulsearching@gmail.com. Also, make sure you subscribe. And most importantly, take a calculated risk this week. Don't do it for me, do it for you.